Hello everyone, this is Michelle Quackenbush. My content expert is Scott Kupferman. He is an assistant professor in the College of Education at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. His focus is transition and assistive technology. He has been a professor at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs for the last 6 years. Their organization is that the general education and special education departments are combined there. He's also the director of the National Collaborative for Disability and Technology, which is a network of over 200 assistive technology researchers. He's been selected as a National Council on Disability delegate and has been a recipient of the United States Department of Education's Commissioner Award for Excellence. The reason I selected him was because of our shared interest in transition planning and the use of assistive technology. His research interests are in both of these areas, and we have similar philosophies regarding accessibility, inclusion, and universal design. He focuses particularly with his work outside the university on transition for post-secondary education, employment, and independent living. He has done extensive research individually and with others and received support for that in grants. I have included Dr. Kupferman's mission statement in a short presentation.
Is really to change society toward being more access and more inclusion for people with different types of disabilities, different support needs, their families and friends. And so our real goal is to change the public, the environment, society, stigma, education, employment, and kind of the broad range of different opportunities for people with disabilities through a really planned effort. And so engaging different partners, different NGOs, different policymakers, researchers, and trying to all come together toward making the world a more accessible and inclusive place.
I share Dr. Kupferman's philosophy that approaches to transition planning, assistive technology, and supporting students and people with disabilities does need to be looked at on the global level as well as on the level of the country and in the classroom. He has a strong focus on collaboration, as I mentioned earlier, with the National Collaborative for Disability and Technology. This is a multidisciplinary group of people with disabilities and engineers who work together to develop and evaluate accessible technology. I really appreciate the inclusivity of this organization working so closely with persons with disabilities. Some of the areas that they're working on are the Alternate MDIA, which is an automated conversion of instructional materials into audio, large print, braille, and other alternative formats. Clickable or alternative text to inform individuals with cognitive disabilities. Context-aware AAC, which is a device that automatically adapts to setting people, time, and other context influencing factors. And Mathem Access Authoring, which is accessible mathematics authoring software for teachers, curriculum developers, and publishers. With his international focus, he has been a delegate to the United Nations Symposium in Korea. He has also been involved in bringing delegations of people from other countries, including Japan, to the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs campus. Some of his specific work on technology development is an interactive social skill application for people with autism. Dynamic video captions providing interaction with video for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. And he is working with multiple companies and organizations to bring that integration and technology into local schools, including Apple and Microsoft. And in addition to his development of technology and his international work with persons with disabilities and engineers, he also, in his practice at the University of Colorado, works with a co-teacher who has cerebral palsy who communicates with eye blinks. They have developed a camera system to control PowerPoint presentations and communicate using his eyes. This has allowed for co-development, co-teaching, and co-grading between Dr. Kupferman and his colleague with cerebral palsy. In my review of the literature, inclusive classrooms are generally best practices for students with disabilities in terms of supporting their educational progress as well as their social and emotional well-being. Dr. Kupferman agrees with the inclusive classroom and also shares my point of view that disability is not an individual's problem that needs to be fixed or cured. His work focuses on the environmental and social barriers preventing access and inclusion. The structure of the departments at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs reflects this inclusivity in that they have a joint department in training new teachers that include both general education and special education teacher candidates. The emphasis is that environment and society need to be fixed and not the person, and it's our responsibility to create that accessibility. Dr. Kupferman's approach is that universal design for learning is the approach that provides the equal access for students with disabilities to their educational system. Equal access under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act states that it's an opportunity to attain the same level of performance or to enjoy equal benefits and privileges as are available to a similarly situated student without a disability. Universal Design for Learning provides a framework for instructors, and the National Center on Universal Design for Learning is a resource for UDO examples for transition planning during middle and high school as well as post-secondary education, and I have included their website below. Persons with disabilities who transition from high school face incredible challenges regarding attaining employment and continuing their education and living independently without a concerted effort to plan for it in advance and provide them access as well as assistive technology tools. Transition planning in the IEP needs to specifically describe the assistive technology required by the student. This requires an assistive technology evaluation with some important questions to ask. One of these questions would be, does this student require the assistive technology accommodation? If the answer is yes, then you need to look at information about the present levels in the IEP. The next step is to identify student characteristics to make sure that the options selected are intentional and relate to the student's learning style and preferences. You also need to evaluate all the accommodations that are available to be selected and think broadly in determining which of these accommodations might support the student. It's important to identify the barriers between the student and the grade level general education curriculum. And although many things could be selected, in terms of accommodations and assistive technology, it can also result in overwhelming the student so that they don't use them on an ongoing basis, and the team can assess whether or not they're effective or something else should be used. Dr. Kupferman's work has focused on transition planning that empowers a student to use assistive technology and to participate in transition planning at a level that's appropriate to the student's age and ability. He emphasized that advocacy related to assistive technology use is very critical and should be planned by the teams with the students involved in transition. Additionally, assistive technology requirements in the receiving environment should be identified during the transition planning process. He has found that the areas of assistive technology most often implemented are text-to-speech reading software, magnification devices, and amplification devices and systems. This is reflected in his work with dynamic video captions and the project Context Aware. Dr. Kupferman advocates that one way to support transition from school to post-secondary education, employment, and independent living is to guide the student in developing a self-directed summary of performance. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 2006 require that students leave special education services with a summary of performance document. The idea is that students submit the summary of performance to future educator, employers, and agency representatives to describe their achievements, characteristics, and needs. However, in the past, most of these have been a one-page form that are very standardized and do not reflect the individual's unique strengths, preferences, and needs. Dr. Kupferman advocates the use of an electronic summary of performance, and the components you'll see here on the slide. The first step is basic student information with their post-secondary goals. The next step would be the student's input and their particular skills and abilities and things they would like to highlight during their high school years. And then step 3 is a detailed presentation of assistive technology that has supported them, other accommodations, and then a portfolio aspect that really highlights their strengths and their dreams for their future. Here's an example from one of Dr. Kupferman's works regarding what an electronic summary of performance could look like. It's a shared document in the Google Drive, work samples from the student, some presentations, as well as the individual information that was described in the prior slide. In my literature review of transition planning and assistive technology and interviewing Dr. Kupferman, I was able to understand the global developments and school developments and in the classroom developments for transition planning and assistive technology. It's really incredible how engineers, educators, and persons with disabilities are working together to support their needs in transition planning and with assistive technology. His work concludes that universal design for learning with the inclusive classroom is the best way to support the transition planning, and collaboration with all stakeholders leads to the best outcomes for the students. I've included a bibliography with Dr. Kupferman's work as well as my literature review. Thank you very much for your attention. I appreciate your time.